Right, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to our panel session this afternoon on creating revenues from online media. We've got an interesting panel lined up for you this afternoon with representation from people in search, affiliate marketing, email marketing, and also some client representation from Grant from Getty Images to give some client perspective on this. You can see on the board also, we've put up a Twitter hashtag in case anybody has questions and don't want to put their hands up at the end. Ping up any questions with that hashtag and I'll have a look through those in the last few minutes. Otherwise, there'll be time to just put up hands for any questions that arise during the panel. Okay. So without further ado, can I ask each of the panel members just to introduce themselves, say who you are and what your involvement in this area is in just a few seconds, starting from Florian with Duncan.
Hiya. Everyone hear that all right? Is that working? No, or vaguely. My name is Duncan. I'm from Total Search Solutions. We're a digital acquisition agency, so we work mainly in paid search with affiliate management and a few other bits and bobs that might make money.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Florian. I work for Junction, which is an affiliate network, one of the largest globally, and we're part of Click, an online advertising company.
My name is Jay Andrews. I work for Intela, which is a global performance-based marketing company specializing in email marketing, lead generation, customer acquisition, and e-commerce.
Afternoon, Reid, online marketing director for Getty Images.
Okay. Well, I'm Steve Pratley, MD of Shine Marketing. We help clients coordinate the activities of the various specialist suppliers like you guys. Okay, so actually one thing I'd like to do before we start is just understand who's in the audience as well. So can I have a quick show of hands for anybody who works client-side, commissioning suppliers, spending money on online media? Okay, so about half, and I assume that the others are from agencies or other supply organisations. Hands up? Okay, so it's about 50-50 split of client and agency side here, so interesting perspectives on this. Right, so without further ado, the first question is, are we really asking the right question? What does incremental revenue mean within your business, and how do you try and focus on achieving that for clients or your own business? Start with Florian.
Sure. So in affiliate marketing, there's really quite a broad range of opportunities available. The key to that is really for us to understand for each one of our clients what incremental opportunities means for them. It's different for each advertiser and for each business model. It's different between retail and between travel. So our mission as a company is really to go and understand what the advertiser's objectives are, and then look through our portfolio of partners and affiliates and decide which one of those opportunities best match that advertiser's profile. Then we obviously need to help the affiliate to understand how they can fit into that. But that's really where we look at our mission in terms of incrementality.
Okay, Jay?
Yeah, so kind of echoing what Florian said, it's about understanding what the performance indicators for each of your clients is really about, and as the line kind of between what they're doing and above the line mass media kind of starts blurring with below the line or direct response stuff, understanding how to maximize their acquisition targets and kind of get that balance correct so that they can increase their revenues without necessarily increasing their spends in any way.
Okay, so a lot of it's about getting more out of the existing spend.
Yeah, I mean, as less offline, or I guess television spend has kind of remained steady over the last couple of years, but print spends have definitely gone down, and in incoming digital spends have been going up significantly, and kind of balancing their acquisition goals against what they're doing brand-wise in mass media is really what's, I think, key as we, I guess I'm the one who's going to throw attribution out, but are trying to figure out what's being attributed to above-the-line action and what's being contributed to direct response and below the line.
Okay. Duncan, how does this operate within the search world then?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in the search world and in our business, what incremental revenue means to us is what every individual client decides that it means, and mostly they're wrong. But I think that what we're really talking about is how we get new stuff. So how we get new people in the door, or how we get existing people to spend new stuff that they wouldn't have spent. And I think in a lot of ways, it's like being sent on an elaborate quest to catch a dragon. In essence, it's an important quest and every client takes it seriously. But in another way, there's no such thing as dragons. So it's kind of the quest for the unknowable essence of what a business needs to grow, and therefore important and simultaneously unobtainable. Thank you.
Grant, where do you go and find your dragons from then?
How do you follow that? I think, from a brand point of view, it's about new customer acquisition as far as I'm concerned. That's true incrementality. I think, as Duncan has alluded to, there are, a sale's a sale, revenue's a revenue. Do you chase one, do you chase the other, or is the overall pot the most important piece? But for us, true incrementality is new customers.
Okay. Is thinking about incremental revenues maybe too simplistic in that case? Do we actually need to look at, how each channel plays a part in the sale and how they combine together more than looking at each channel individually, Grant?
Yeah, it's the back to the attribution argument. I think classic sales funnel at the top you have your display, your kind of awareness, your knowledge driving media, and all the way down to the fine point of the funnel. You're looking at affiliates, you're looking at paid search. That's ultimately what drives your acquisition. But there's a huge impact that those other channels have throughout that chain, and it's important you get the balance right to understand that if you turn off all the top of the funnel activity, it has a detrimental impact on the bottom of the funnel action. That's for sure.
Okay.
One of the ways I've heard it described is that you have the attention-based channels where it's typical mass media type stuff, and then you have the desire-based channels, which is increasingly what digital is really about, getting the acquisition at the end of the day. So you can't leave your brand awareness to kind of take care of itself and then just try to drive customer acquisition via digital. You need a balance of both those things the entire way.
Okay, so you think that if people are just focusing on one channel, there's a danger that they haven't done the preparation work to get them to actually closing the sale on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Florian, what do you think about that? Because affiliate marketing has historically worked on the last click model and has been very much focused on closing the sale. What's your view of how these channels mesh together? Because your affiliates are email, display, search, all kinds of different areas of that mix.
Yeah, you make a really good point there. I mean, if you look at affiliate marketing as just one channel, you never quite get the full picture, because each one of the players within affiliate marketing, as you say, email, display, price comparison, cashback, all have a different impact on how you attribute and where the conversion comes from. The other thing, and I think that's where it's probably most important, is that you also, if you're looking at that funnel, and you're quite right, it's most of the times it's about getting new customers, but it's also in being all of the places where your existing customers might be diverted to one of your competitors' brands. So all of these things matter. Another way of looking at incrementality is like, it's never just one channel that will have contributed to the conversion. So are some of the channels helping me to increase my conversion rate of some of those people that I have looked at before? And is that incremental too? Probably, but where is the line where the returns are diminishing of what I'm spending? So there are a lot of different factors to look at when you're looking at attribution in addition to the purchasing funnel.
Okay, and Duncan, because even with search you have layers of people doing research or actually getting towards a spend. So how do those different steps work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely true. I think the big challenge that faces particularly the smaller marketeer is a lack of generally available technology in order to be able to understand that. And I'm sure that Grant has all sorts of great little attribution tools, as do we. But all of the lack of the ability to see the keywords or the channels or the affiliates who are driving those early clicks actually leads you to a very false sense of perspective on where the value is in your overall marketing activity. So you kind of end up playing just for the penalty spot rather than building up an effective attacking 4-4-2 movement, which is what's required. So it really is, as the other panellists have alluded to, and spread your bases wide and understand that incrementality can only really be achieved by putting in the groundwork first.
Okay, so it seems there's some sort of agreement that none of these channels stand on their own and that you need to get each of your different marketing channels, tactics, partners working together. What challenges do you find in actually making that happen? Yeah, and actually getting the different channels and partners, and particularly given that there's quite a wide range of different specialisms within digital these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly every client needs to have a one true picture mentality for their data. So whether they're making this strange noise, whether they're making decisions based on their own internal data or Google Analytics or one of the more advanced attribution-based tools, I think it's very important that that's shared cross-team, cross-agency, cross-supplier, because Google conversions can say you've got 15 sales on one keyword. Even Google Analytics itself can give a different opinion on that. And further attribution tools and warehouse management systems can say, well, I only sold 3 things today. So I think firstly decide your one truth data and then make sure that's shared between suppliers so you're all actually working to the same KPIs rather than different ones. I think that's one of the key challenges.
Florian, how does that work within the affiliate channel when you've got a number of publishers working for the same merchant?
Let me answer that a little bit outside of affiliate marketing, because Duncan makes a really good point. For a lot of advertisers, the technology isn't so easily and readily available and not so easy to integrate, which has the unfortunate side effect that a lot of people are drawn into trying to solve that technology problem and are not looking at what other things they need to consider. And some of the challenges that many clients face in that process is once they've gotten to actually getting the technology in place, is that they don't have the internal structures that help them address incrementality. And the things that are to be looked at here is what are the organizational structures, how do the teams work together, how does marketing work with purchasing, or how does marketing work with e-commerce. Quite often we find disconnects there. It gets worse when we're talking online to offline, which an online channel doesn't just drive sales on the website, it also attracts people into stores. So where does that connection come in, and do the teams work together well enough there to get all of the incremental revenue opportunities solved? And those things can't be addressed through technology. So whoever is embarking on that journey, it's really important to kind of make sure that you're looking at all of the elements that are needed to make sure you're capturing everything that is really incremental, and that goes way beyond most people's website.
Grant, I can see you nodding your head about the organisational challenges that Florian's talking about there. I mean, yours is a large enough organisation that you work in multiple channels, but also multinational as well. So what kind of things have you experienced in trying to make these channels work better together?
I think we've alluded to it. I think ultimately you have to have a central reporting tool or suite that allows everyone to look at the same data at the same time. By having those KPIs, those performance metrics in place, you can understand the influence of all the channels in relation to the sale. Ultimately, for a company like Getty, all we're interested in is getting the sale. How we get there doesn't really matter as long as we get that sale at the end of the day, but you have to understand the influence that all of those channels have, and that goes online and offline, from advertising above the line to telephone traffic, all those kind of things that has to be looked at across the board ultimately to define that end user KPI.
Okay. Jay?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the shift, like you mentioned, between online and offline. You see high street stores that are kind of going under because people use them as showrooms and then go and make the actual sale at a lower price online. But then you see other companies like Google and Samsung have plans to open high street stores that are really kind of brand embassies, because they're kind of going in the opposite direction, where they feel that the digital stuff that they've been doing for a while is going to really be benefited by having a physical store where people can interact and kind of learn about everything. So it's interesting to see how it's going down a two-way street, where people are really focusing on acquisition still online, but that the offline stuff is still a very important piece of the puzzle in terms of just getting your brand out there and having awareness amongst all the consumers that you can possibly have on the high street.
Okay. Another element of that, I guess, is the growth, which is really here now in mobile. Now that presents a lot of challenges to organisations in tracking down an individual, whereas they used to just be sat at a single computer at work or maybe a second one at home. We now have mobile devices which are very much part of the picture as well. How difficult is that making the idea of building up a picture, and how have you seen mobile actually contribute to this to the flow of the funnel and where it fits in within that sales path. Grant, have you got any views on that with yours?
Mobile certainly plays a part in that process. Whether from a Getty point of view, it's very much kind of in the middle of that sales funnel mix. I don't think it's at the bottom end, because what we sell is a very specific kind of highly tactile process that we want people to engage with, and we have create light boxes and all these other things. So it's more of a kind of a browsing tool than an acquisition tool. But if you looked at it through the kind of classic sales funnel, it very much sits in between the kind of top and the bottom end.
Okay. Florian, you have?
I actually find mobile one of the most fascinating conversations in this area, because a different way to look at mobile is, rather than look at it as purely a channel, is to look at different disciplines and where mobile plays a factor in that. You could say, if I look at price comparison, then I look at how that works on mobile and how that works in online. If I look at brand and video, how does that work online? How does that play with my offline? And how do I tie that back to mobile? So one way to kind of simplify some of the challenges in mobile is to actually take it apart a little bit and look beyond just mobile and look at all of the different channels that you have available within mobile. It's almost like another medium like the internet, or it is really another medium like the internet that has different channels sitting within. And it's very difficult if you look at it as one channel, because you'll never quite get to all the different finalities within it. But if you start to take it apart and look at each of those aspects, it actually starts to make a little more sense, and then you can start looking at the opportunities rather than the challenges.
Do you think it's actually separate enough from our traditional desktop experience that we should be looking at it as separate from just internet marketing, that mobile should be maybe a different set of practitioners and expertise that's needed for that?
I think that depends a little bit on where you're sitting. I mean, a lot of organizations won't necessarily have the luxury of looking at it completely separately. Some of them, a big organization might benefit from it. Again, you have that you, at the same time, you need the challenge that we brought up earlier, is like to make sure you have enough for those teams to work together, so that you're not creating that disparity that already exists between some channels. But more importantly, when looking at mobile, rather than looking at what might be the technical implementations or what might be the next new best thing, is actually looking at who is my consumer, how might they use mobile in interacting with me, and how are they already interacting with me online, and where does mobile fit into that? I think we still get a lot of people, it's like, well, we want more apps to work with us, or we want more partners that have apps. Well, what sort of apps, and what do you want those apps to do, and which consumer are you trying to attract? Those are all important questions to answer before embarking on that.
Okay, so it's back to thinking about the KPIs again and working back up from there, really. Okay. Mobile is, email is one of the principal reasons that a lot of people use mobile. So how's that helping your channel, and what challenges is it giving to you?
The technical side of things is still a challenge. You're dealing with multiple different types of operating systems, and for email specifically, you don't know 100% that somebody's always going to open and interact with a message on a mobile device. They might have a tendency that you can track, and 75% of the time they're on their iPad, but the other 25% they're on a desktop device. So it's still kind of I think there's technological limitations that it would help if we develop them to feed better messages to people that are opening correctly and displaying correctly, but that's kind of still a work in progress, I guess.
Okay. And how is that helping? Because how is mobile helping your channel? Because it's one of the, like I say, it's one of the biggest reasons that people flip open their mobile phones on the train and start using them. So.
Yeah, I mean, like Florian said, it's really about understanding what the key performance indicator for the specific client is. So if you have somebody that truly has a reason to have an app, it's a product that you're meant to interact with, or in real time, like for the gaming industry, you might want to place a bet, or you're not just kind of browsing with it, you're actually interacting and making some sort of purchase or placing a bet, gaming. So you have to balance, not everybody should just go out there and put up some sort of app that's not necessarily going to benefit or engage your customer base, but many people will find that when they have free time, like we were just sitting here before the thing started, if you have 5 minutes, you're probably going to get out your mobile device and interact with something. So there's a lot of opportunity there as long as you seize it in the right way.
So unlike Grant, who said that mobile really fits in the middle of their sales funnels, you're seeing stuff at the branding end and at the kind of hard-nosed action-based end as well, of actual making a sale and making revenues.
Yeah, in specific cases where it's the right decision to go down. Yeah, definitely. I think that, again, the technology is still catching up to really to maximize the potential, but it's definitely there, and I think it could be a first point of sale that's going to maybe take over desktop very soon here.
Okay. And Duncan, mobile search is a very interesting space and used very differently from how people do so on the desktop. What new opportunities is that giving you to create new revenue streams for your clients or engage with their customers in different ways?
Well, I think there's a couple of really important things about mobile. The first being that in reality, when we're looking at ROI and whatever type of campaign we run, particularly in the paid search space, it's very rare to achieve the same sort of levels. Now, a lot of that's just a tracking fall down because mobile tracking doesn't integrate well with desktop tracking, and realistically, a lot of research is happening on mobile, and then people are transacting on either tablet or desktop. I think that's a very common path. But because you tend to end up with such small ROI figures, clients tend to be a bit more reluctant to spend. And I think that's a lot to do with one of the big reasons why Google have now introduced the enhanced campaigns, which are going live over this summer, where every campaign will have a mobile component within it. And I think that represents a huge challenge to people without mobile optimized sites who aren't trying to actually convert on the fly, because I do think that what you're going to end up with is you're not going to be ready for the sort of flood of visitors who actually want to transact with you via mobile. And I think very few sites are doing it effectively. And I certainly think nobody is effectively measuring the cross-play between the two device types, mainly for technological reasons. There just isn't the bridge solution for them at the moment.
Okay. We've had a lot of mentions of technology, and particular attribution and measuring how much each individual channel or touch point contributes to the end sale. How far and how well do you think we're doing that now? And what challenges are there to come before we start getting a clearer picture of really how much each channel is actually contributing to that final spend? Grant.
I think the kind of the Tagmans of this world and this kind of universal tracking pixels have opened that opportunity up to a wider audience. There's no doubt about that. But I think that's very much an entry level. I don't see that as at the higher end of the scale. I think you need to look at other companies who bring that data together and analyse it on a click-to-sale path environment, such as Odometry is one that we use, for example, that do a really good job of lining up every single click within that purchase cycle. And then we start to cluster those customers, understand that path, working it back from the customer rather than looking at it from a planning perspective.
Okay. And Jay?
Well, I think it's quite difficult. I touched on it earlier, the blurring of above the line and below the line marketing, and a lot of it, like we were saying earlier, is maybe because different people within an organization handle different types of marketing, and so they're not necessarily communicating on a regular basis, and that makes it increasingly difficult to attribute a certain acquisition to one single channel. And I think a lot of the major agencies are still built that way, where they have a below-the-line team and above-the-line team that don't have a lot of interaction either, and so that adds another layer both on the client side and on a media agency side, that it might just be a communication factor, or it's just that the technology and the actual attribution tools still don't have the greatest solution to say with any certainty this one sale was a result of this one action.
Okay, so as ever, there's a technology problem, but underneath all that, there's probably a people problem about getting the right departments to talk as well. So. Okay. Florian, how have you seen that within yours? Because you have a lot of different touch points under your...
Yeah, we have a lot of different touch points, and I think, and I said it earlier, right? Sometimes it's easy to get hung up in the technology limitations of it, and at the same time you kind of forget where sometimes the bigger picture image is also might not be looked at in the right way, because people are so hung up on what does the technology mean and what does the model look like. And I think one way to turn the equation upside down again is to look at where are the consumers that I want to reach, and how do I reach them, and where are the partners that I need to reach them. And then you look at where those partners sit in the attribution model or in the purchasing funnel, which is really where you can start to extract the value. And then you need to ask, what is the value? Is it incremental spend? Is it a higher order value? Is it a higher conversion rate? Is it a new consumer? Is it a consumer that I have potentially lost to somebody else? It's quite easy to go and say this model doesn't really add any value. You'll never capture probably all the consumers that you've lost in the process, because another player is present within that sphere and is taking all of your existing customers away from you. So you really need to ask what is the value that I'm looking for, and how do I define that? But that goes beyond just new sales.
Duncan, I saw some quite interesting numbers from a car brand recently that were saying that they're now investing more into their generic search rather than the search terms on specific cars, models, types, because they realise that, using your football analogy, if you don't have the kind of backup passing the ball forward to these final sales, then there weren't enough people going into that funnel at that end. Have you seen that yourself, and is the attribution technology there to actually help make some of these decisions and change some of the preconceptions that have come out of the last click model?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the technology is there. I mean, we're certainly using it, and I know that a lot of clients are using it. I actually think this is more of a cultural issue, and I think that when you talk about the car manufacturers, they're people who've actually bridged that argument internally and quite rightly won it. I think it's very hard to get out of the mindset of this keyword drove this sale, or this affiliate drove this sale. Even when we've all come to a debate like this, I bet you're all going to go home, look at your keywords and say, oh, that keyword drove that sale. The reality is that is not true. The reality is there are multiple channels, and you've got to kind of make that switch and just go, no, that's not true. I'm now going to find out what is true. And I think until that, nothing really is going to change for your business and getting more incremental revenues. And I think that's exactly what those car companies have done. They've gone, okay, we now recognise this, and we need to change what we're doing, because what we thought was true isn't really true.
Awesome. Okay. Right, we've got a couple of minutes left. If there are any questions for the floor, if you'd just like to put your hand up, and there's a lady with a roving mic. Anybody? Stony silence. And one at the back.
Hiya. I really like the football analogy about having to have a full team behind it, and you've obviously got a couple of key players at the end that might be converting that. But do you feel the difference within marketing is that obviously it doesn't matter if the people that are supplying that final pass are on your team or actually your competitors, and you can just convert other people who are putting in the legwork?
So essentially waiting for your competitors to do all the product research and then just being the lowest priced, for example, would be a good idea. I certainly think that's true. I think that the idea that people are doing product research on your products and category research on your products on your site and then buying on your site is also utterly nonsensical. And I think you need to be aware that you're within an ecosystem. But I think if you're not leading that ecosystem from the very front and introducing people to the products, then you're always going to be essentially a discounter rather than an introducer to a market type.
Grant, yours is a relatively premium product within the market space that you operate with, and a lot of low-cost libraries coming in as well. Have you seen them actually expand the market for you, or are they robbing sales from you? Are their efforts helping or hindering you, do you think?
I think we're in a commoditized market, so by the nature of that, there is a bit of that goes on. I think it depends, where you lay your hat and how you see yourselves in terms of the company, but also more importantly how your customers perceive you, and whether that's the value, whether it's the service you provide, or a combination of both. I think in current times it is a price comparison, cashback, coupon environment. That's where we are. So you have to embrace that and use it tactically to your advantage.
Florian, do you see goal hanging as being a successful strategy for long-term growth, or do we need to put more effort into feeding the ball up in the first place?
I think you need to look at the same thing, and I'm going to stick with the football analogy and hope it works. What you have for most online players is that they've got multiple footballs that they're trying to get into their goal, right? And for most online retailers, none of these balls are the same size, right? Whereas it's easy to get a small one through the door with just one kick. You might have one that's about this size that you need 5 people to push it along and actually get it in, right? And that's kind of where the way I look at it is like, it's not as simple as just one approach to everything you do. To everything you do, you need to look at absolutely everything you do and then decide an approach for all of the bits that you have. So
there might be some quick wins, but also blended together with a big strategic push that need a lot more team behind it. Okay, Jay, how does email work with that environment for you then?
Well, I'm American, so I don't really understand football, but I understand. Yeah, I mean, email is definitely benefits from activities that people are doing elsewhere. It's about having the right message in front of the right person when that person is ready to interact with the brand. So everything that's being done in other portions of the game is all about building up to the point at which you close. And email, I mean, you try to profile a person who's going to be the decision maker for the household in case you're trying to get a travel client, or you try to profile a person who likes to play bingo or game. But ultimately, it's having the message there and available to them and convenient for them to interact with when they've become aware of the brand and they decide that they have a desire to interact with the brand.
Okay, good question. Do we have any others at all? Okay, I'm getting told to wrap up now, so thanks very much to the members of our panel. Thanks all of you for your attention. Okay.